if it gets a little like awkward start. Okay, great. Well, there we go. All right, Phil, hello.
Hunter, oh
Thank
my
you
God,
for this.
how are you, my brother?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm pretty good actually. Like it's kind of warm in here. It's the start of summer, so we're getting a bit of a heat wave going. Um,
Can't say the same here. It's actually it was snowing earlier.
uh,
We got like 3 inches of snow here in DC, and then now it's freezing rain. So you mix the two together, it's not really a good mix. And then it's like 25 degrees. So
has the seasonal affective disorder kicked in yet? Are you feeling the same?
uh, I don't think it's the seasonal thing. I think it's the COVID season. Like that's what's kicked in. You know what I mean? Like everyone's like usually has seasonal depression, but I think now we can mask it as like COVID depression. You know what I mean?
Everyone's
I'm
got,
I'm fortunately pretty good, but I have my days. You know what I mean?
yeah, we all have our days, and the most important thing is that we respect that we're having a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Okay.
So I wanted to set this up when I've told you this, because firstly, I love how ambitious you are. Like you're such a generous and passionate person, and it bleeds into your work. I mean, for the people that watching that do know, and also for those that don't know, was it over a year ago that you started Flatbed Entertainment, your own production company?
Yeah. So little quick story. I started it like I think 2019. I knew I wanted to do it. I always knew I wanted to do it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, what am I doing? Like, yikes! Like I solidified all the legal stuff, and I was like, wow, I'm really not ready to do this just yet. You know what I mean? Um, and but when really are you ever ready? You know what I mean? That's what I realized because a lot of what I've built that a lot of people are now seeing has been because of quarantine, because of COVID. You know what I mean? Um, COVID kind of like just made me like realign and rethink some things, and I just decided, if now is the best time because I literally can just focus and dial in on that because I can't go outside. I can't party. I can't, there's a lot of the distractions that I had. And even like the financial like burdens that I had were kind of gone. So I was like, let me just do this now. So yeah, I mean like the birth of it was, 2019, but I would say like the actual like building of it was this year, like
And
2020.
what, because you kind of already like laid out the groundwork for probably my big question about it, which was what was the original idea and what has this year changed about the original concept?
Well, actually, I can honestly say that nothing much has really changed. I don't know about you, but I journal.
Mm.
Like I've like recently, actually, like last week, I looked into my journal and I looked at 2017. Like I wrote the goals down for 2000, and Flatbed was on there. It
Wow.
wasn't called Flatbed; it just said start a production company.
Uh-huh.
Um, but given the story that is out there about how I came up with the name, that's as soon as I came up with that name and the concept behind it, it kind of like just stayed in my heart. And it didn't really like, usually like if something hits me and it's profound or it resonates with me, it'll stay. But if it leaves, then I know that it's not anything I should really pursue and really chase after. But that never left. Like it was just as strong a year in advance, a year after as it was when I thought about it, when I like actually established it legally in New York. And then when I went back to it, like, okay, now let's really do this. So nothing has really changed. I think the idea of what I thought it would look like as far as like branding and stuff like that changed. Just because when you're working with, like, you have a mental image and then you start working with an agency or a company or maybe like a friend that does like, graphic design or whatever the case may be, like then you start really building it out and it's like, oh wow, I didn't think of that. I mean, especially what we do, like give us the page, give us the
Yeah.
text, and you make magic. But I can't like even begin to like imagine designing something like that. But everything for the most part pretty much stayed the same as far as the core of it and what I wanted it to be. Yeah, it's held the test of time.
Yeah, which is good because again, like I said, you are a passionate person, so that helps in an environment like this where, I mean, when I started my production company, which I didn't actually like have a concept for it, like literally the reason I started it in, I think it was early 2019, was literally because I was like, I just want to like do some work and I don't want to have to go through other people to do it. So I started it, tried to get the rights to a show, couldn't get that show, got the rights to a different show. And I remember like, I was probably like a couple weeks out from the performance dates that I put up, and I was like, I'm not fucking ready, because I had no idea of like how to actually build something substantial. It was like I was just doing the acting work, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a company, and it has to be something of substance, and there are so many roles that have to be filled. And so I canceled the performance, and it took me a year to understand the amount of attention that you have to put into an idea, such like as large as a production company. So, you know, you've been doing a lot of work this year. You've put in a
Yeah.
lot of work with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have. I mean, I've been doing in the time frame of like me starting it in 2019 and, you know, actually starting to build it out. The analogy I've been using with people is like, you know, obviously the goal is to make films, you know, write and make films, produce films, TV shows, scripts. I want to even like, I want to go back to stage. I did one play after Esper, and it was like the most exhilarating thing. So I can't wait to get back. And just like anything like media, you know what I mean? Like I want to give jobs and help, you know, elevate people's careers and, you know, basically essentially do for myself and other people what you just said about like, you know, you wanted to give yourself work and not have to go through all these different channels and different doors to in order to do that. Um, but you know, as in that time frame, again, like I was saying, I was doing a lot of research and I was watching a lot of like my idols whom inspired me to even want to be an entrepreneur in any form. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like Jay-Z was a big one. Nipsey Hussle, The Rock. I mean, as far as like just pop culture people, you know what I mean? I mean, these guys have all literally like they're so independent, in charge of their own brand, and like, you know, whether you like them or not, you can't deny, you cannot disrespect what they've built. You know what I mean? Especially when we are where we are now, and they are where they are. I can't hate on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I read a really good book too. I actually maybe I'll plug that in. That kind of helped me out as well. It's called Contagion by this guy named Jonah Berger. It's a phenomenal book about just like strategy and just like, you know, how to get your brand out there. So, and actually Nipsey Hussle got one of his biggest ideas that like skyrocketed his career from that book. But yeah, so, you know, I kind of like just said, I got to do it and just learn. I mean, I'm still learning along the way. There are a lot of different roles, like you said. And I definitely feel what you were saying about like, you know, I'm almost at show date and I'm like, I don't know what to do. There's so many different things to fill. And it's like scary, but one thing that really pushed me, and I actually pulled this quote up. It says, do it scared, do it broke, do it when they don't understand, do it in imperfection, do it anyway. So I was like, that's really like all I needed to hear to just do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and even like people will catch on, people will like reach out and like want to help out. Like I've actually had a lot, like a good handful amount of people that like, yo, I love what you're doing. I want to help. How can I be of help? You know,
Mhm.
and I have no money for anyone right now, not even myself.
Yeah.
And they're just, you know, inspired. So I'm very, really grateful for that.
Well, I think like secretly, like that has been the blessing of this year, particularly when you're working on something like this, when you're working on a project. Because I learned through, you know, the show that I just did.
Which was
Wow.
phenomenal, by the way. Phenomenal. If you have not seen it yet, you missed out. I don't know if there's any opportunity to see it
You know what?
again.
What's funny is by the time that we post this, I think there will actually be another way for people to watch it. So they're in luck. But
Yes.
yes, thank you. I very much appreciate that and the fact that you watched it. But as I was saying, the two things that I learned when I was putting that together in a time when I was just literally like locked in an apartment on my own with nothing else to do while I was trying to put a play together, it's that you can give yourself the space to focus on one thing at a time. When when you've got such a large project in front of you, it's easy to be overwhelmed by all the different hats that you have to wear. But it really is a matter of just like one at a time. Just like take your time with it, because it is that idea of, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like you have to take it easy. But also this year has reiterated to probably everyone the importance of a community and helping other people out,
Mm-hmm.
like reaching out to other people, even on like a personal level of when you're feeling a bit stuck in your own head and you just need someone around. That's been such a gratifying experience for other people, is having the time to connect with people overseas or people that they haven't spoken to in a while. And the
Yeah,
same
absolutely.
in business together is asking help from people that you wouldn't usually expect.
I mean, I kind of like just tapped into everyone that I knew. You know what I mean? Like, if you were a friend and I worked with you, you know, and you're a graphic designer, if you're another actor, if you've directed or produced anything, like I was asking all the questions, sometimes even questions that I wasn't really ready to ask because I don't know if I would really need the answer right now, but like I asked them anyways, you know what I mean? But you know, and this is like, it's something like this is really like hard. So you want to have that sense of community and that sense of, you know, unity to like touch or lean on anyone, you know what I mean? Like, I remember when you started your production company, I was like, oh my God, he's on the same time as me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, dope. But then it was like, what are we gonna do? Like, I mean, like, I know you were ready, it seemed, and then I now learned that you weren't. But
Yeah.
I was ready to see how you were gonna do, because I was gonna then ask you, hey Connor, so I saw that you did that thing, and I'm trying to do a thing. How
Oh,
did it go? How did you
so
do it? You
easy. It's so easy to talk the talk, man. It's so easy to talk about it, but you got to do it. You got to like, you got to do it.
Yeah, like Nike. I mean, like I that's one thing I learned this year. Like the true definition of their slogan, like just do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or as Bruce would say, fail but fail falling forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny because I really don't feel like I've done like a portion of what is to come. You know what I mean? Like I've been giving people the analogy of like, okay, I finally have built the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I got to furnish it,
Mm-hmm.
that being with a bunch of scripts or more scripts that I haven't already written.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to bring in more people to live in it, you know, producers, writers, whatever the actors that are going to just be in my stuff. But you know, last year I didn't say that I had a house, you know what I mean? I had like a bag, but I had nowhere to stay, you know what I mean? Now I have a roof over my head. And you know, I think I'll finally be able to like welcome people in at the top of 2021 January. So we'll see. We'll
Well,
see.
this is what persistence gets, because it's so funny. Like when you published the idea to the general public of why you called it Flatbed Entertainment, which we can go into a little bit after this, but
Yeah.
like I remember when you told that story, I was like, I remember when you told me that that was your living situation when we were training at 17. I was like, I know about this. Like I literally know about this. And you turned up to the studio every day, no hint that like that living environment was affecting you in any way, shape, or form. Because again, like you're so passionate that you were doing what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that the genesis of the idea for all of this existed those years ago, and to look at where it is now, I don't know. It's just, there's something really powerful in the idea of being patient with yourself enough to let something turn into what it wants to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I mean, and I didn't really like realize it until I forgot at what point. Maybe it was when I forgot my first official logo, and like I let that, and I released that, and I was like, wow, this is like really like real. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because when you're in it, when you're doing all the things, when you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, you're not thinking with the perspective of what you just said. It's just like, okay, these are the things that I have to do in order to establish this thing or to like solidify what I'm trying to do. You know, but as my godfather would say, it's not, at times you have to like, you know, sit down, kick your feet up and like assess all the ground that you've covered. You know what I mean? So I've had some time to now do that. But yeah, I mean, I remember I was like the happiest in my life. I've always said that Esper is like the happiest time of my life for more reasons than one. Despite my living situation at the time, you know what I mean? Like I remember coming into class, and I think I said it to like Max or Madeline, and maybe you overheard it, but we sat pretty close.
Yeah.
At one point, everyone knew, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, look what we're doing. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is great. You know what I mean?" So to those that don't know, shameless plug. So my production company is called Flatbed Entertainment. And the reason why it is called Flatbed Entertainment is because when Connor and I were in our first year of acting training at William Esper Studio, during those times, or at least for the first year, I slept on a blow-up mattress that literally deflated every night. So like I would wake up at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., depending on like, you know, when it just decided to get there. But I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be basically on the floor. And I was in this like really small like space. I don't know, maybe Connor, we could put the picture that actually
Yeah.
had like the
Yeah.
post.
Put it up with the rest of
It was winter. It was cold. I'm in the hallway in between the bathroom and like my roommate's room, and like the stairs were like right there. So there really wasn't any space for me or anyone that needed to get through, whether it was to the bathroom or to the laundry room door. Um, and throughout those circumstances, they could really turn someone off, and just really shake them. But for me, if it wasn't for acting school and what I was doing and who I was becoming and the dreams that I was dreaming and the things that I wanted to then do that were inspired by the work that I was doing at the time, I don't think I would have made it through, or I would have, had many nights of just tears or just calling my mom or whatever the case may have been. But none of the sort actually occurred. And, I just inspired me, and it really fueled who I wanted to become and what I wanted to do, the stories I wanted to be a part of, write, produce, all that stuff. So when it came time, after, I think like a year after acting school finished, that's when I really sat down. I was going to a lot of coffee shops and just writing in like Brooklyn or whatever, typical like artist stuff.
Yeah, man.
And I was thinking of a name, and I remember one day getting really frustrated because none of the names really like rang true. And then I forget, and I'm so upset with myself that I can't remember how I thought or where I was when I thought about it. But I remember it just hit me, and it was like, oh my God, Flatbed. And not only was that like indicative to my story, but I felt like it was a good name also because like you, for example, or anyone watching this video has a flatbed story, whether you're like a veterinarian or you're on pace to be, a veterinarian or a doctor or a lawyer or architecture or whatever, you know what I mean? You have a flatbed story. You go to sleep at night on a couch or on a bed, a futon, a floor, whatever it is. Even if you're sleeping in your car, you're dreaming of the life that you want, and you're doing it on this flat surface, and your dream is so strong that it doesn't shape who you are, your dream is so strong that your circumstances don't shape who you are, nor where you're sleeping, you know what I mean? And I just felt like everyone could relate to that personally just as much as I could. So it was kind of like an all-inclusive kind of thing. And to further explain, like, I want Flatbed to be a company where we're more easily accessible than like, a production company that you would love to work with or work at or something, and like you can't reach them. You know what I mean? Like you go on a website like Monkey Paw, like A24, whatever, and you find an email it's like info at, and like you're not gonna get a response from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you're gonna apply with like hundreds of thousands of applications. So I wanted to like be inclusive in that way, but also like I wanted people to like, if they put on a hoodie or a shirt or they're watching a movie, it's like, yo, like I have a flatbed dream too. And we all do. So that's kind of like the whole concept behind it. But
Yeah. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Again, the idea unknowingly has become a stronger concept this year for the stuff that we've already talked about, where it's like we've been isolated from each other for so long now. And everyone's either just desperate to be around people or desperate to finally go after their dreams, because they're like, I've been sat down all year and it feels longer than that. And now I want something for myself. Like I feel that now is the time to reward oneself. So the idea of making a grassroots production company that is accessible is, yeah, it's more prevalent than ever. And I guess that makes me want to ask you, just like personally, do you feel that right now is a better or worse time for artists coming up? Because I know how I feel about it, but how do you feel?
I think the first thing that came to my mind when you asked me that question was, yes, this is a good time, but I feel like it's a good time. Whether or not it's a good time isn't dependent upon like me. It's like you, like us, like
Yes.
artists.
Yeah.
So, like, someone could be like, okay, I can't get on a stage. I can't really audition right now, and if you are, you're lucky because, you know, they're not taking many people right now. But I feel like there's going to be like some type of like renaissance like after this, you know what I mean? Like just like an influx of just stories and people writing for like almost a year, if not a little bit less or more, you know what I mean? Like I definitely have a lot of ideas that I cannot wait to get out. And again, I don't think that I would have this much content or like ideas, treatments if it wasn't for COVID, because I can actually sit down and like really think and like sit with things, you know what I mean? And I know we're all eager to get back out there. So,
Mm.
I mean, I personally think coming out of this is going to be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I
feel
think people have definitely realigned mentally, emotionally. You know, we've been dealing with a lot. We've seen a lot.
Mhm.
And I think I'm hoping that people now are really like checking in and doing like self work,
Mhm.
because I think mental health is, if it hasn't become like a number one issue in your life or just anyone's life that you know that you love, you're lucky, because it's tough, you know, what we're going through. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm optimistic, you know what I mean? But I'm also about taking time to
Mhm.
like do things the right way, not rush into it. But no, I think it'll be like a new renaissance, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel exactly the same. And when I was like listening to you lay out like, you know, the feelings that I already had, it reminded me, like, before we started recording, we were talking about footage that I saw of, you know, post bushfires in Australia. You
Yeah,
know, fire swept across a large portion of our country, and yet you look at those areas now, and while yes, you know, from far out they still look completely dead, you get a little bit closer and you can see all the new life growing through. So yeah, like there can be like a devastating change in a landscape, but there will always be something that grows out of it, always, because
yeah,
the land adapts as well as people do, particularly creatives. Like I think that, again, like a national crisis is the best time for creatives, because it is literally their job to adapt to circumstances in order to provide something for the people, be it
yeah,
escapism or social activism.
yeah, yeah. I mean, both are gonna be. It's gonna. I'm really actually, now that you said that, I'm very curious to see what comes out of this. It's gonna be great. I mean, I know there are still people creating, and you know, if you are, amazing. I mean, I'm watching you because I can't right now in the way that I would like to. But no, absolutely. I mean, it's gonna be. I guess it's kind of like how, like, what came out of, like, you know, like the AIDS pandemic. You know what I mean? Like the beautiful stories of playwrights from that time, you know what I mean? Especially like in New York or what, like those type of things, what that brought. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's gonna be great.
Would you?
I want to be a part of it. Like, I want to be like, I
You
want
want
to be someone that's like writing and
uh,
putting it out, and also like, hey, so like I'm doing this, but like I also am gonna be a part of yours too. You know what I mean?
do you make anything that's like directly about COVID, or are you too traumatized?
No, I mean, I had a story that I could have like tweaked a bit just to reflect COVID.
Mm.
But then my spirit and my mind and my heart were kind of like, you know, I don't think that the story really necessarily needs that.
Mm.
I feel like COVID has already been like a tumultuous like experience for many, and I don't want to. The story is so like, it's so heartfelt that I didn't want to add more
Mm.
onto that. You know what I mean? I wanted to just let it breathe and live what it's supposed to be. And kind of like escapism, like you said. Like, I wanted people to just maybe for an hour and a half just not think about that, and myself too. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Uh, so, but I definitely thought about it because, you know, if as a producer, as thinking like a producer right now, if you want to shoot something, if you incorporate COVID into your story, it's kind of easy. You just throw on a mask and now everyone can just go out there and have fun. You know what I mean? Um, but you know, Tom Cruise is going to bat for us, so thank
Mm.
God for
Um,
that.
he's not playing around. He's not fooling
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
Um, what was I going to? I was going to ask you something. Yeah. It's more about like because yeah, I feel in a similar way where I don't think it would be wrong to write about it, of course, because I think particularly if you look at stories that are going to be written about actual events, particularly, you know, in the US, I think that there's been a lot happening this year that needs to be talked about, and it will be talked about eventually. I don't know.
for the next like 5-10 years, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know like how soon is too soon, but eventually it will happen. Um, but at the same time, because of the nature of how we went through everything, where yes, like we're locked indoors with ourselves and we've been doing a lot of self work, I think that the general nature of making things pre-pandemic becomes more important now, where it's
Yeah,
people have either lost touch with themselves or they have a greater understanding of themselves, and it means that work that focuses on stuff that is truly about like the human heart and the human condition becomes more powerful, because people want to be re-immersed in the idea of just like being alive. Because I mean, I know that for myself, like I've just felt so stale coming out of lockdown, and reintegrating back into life. Like I still feel like a little bit out of place, and I don't think that will change for a while. So having work that reflects the experiences that I know still exist within me,
Yeah.
it's like a revival process.
Yeah. Maybe, and you won't have to like maybe dig so deep or like go there. You can just draw from literally like what you went through. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you and I we were pretty young at Esper, like when we first started. Like I think I was like 20. I
Yeah,
turned 21 like that the first year. I think you the
I
same
was
thing.
I was 21 when I started, so we were like
Okay.
the same
Yeah,
age.
we were like right there. And I remember like once I understood, you know, because we had people in our class that were like of all different ages, and I was like, man, like, you know, they can just go there already. And I was like, well, they're older, like they've had more experience, they've seen more, they've done a lot. You know what I mean? We're still young. We you know what I mean? Like we I think you and I were like the youngest people in the class,
Yeah,
besides like, yeah, like maybe Jimenez, like one other person, uh, but yeah, I mean you will be able to just draw from what you've gone through yourself personally,
mm-hmm.
and it'll be an easy way for you to lend that to escapism, to social, you know. I mean, we've been through a lot. Black Lives Matter movement during COVID. You know, I mean, you're in Australia, so you didn't have to deal with the other guy. You know, Agent Orange, as Spike Lee would say. But
I mean, look, we've got stuff equally tragic going on, and again, it becomes about the power of the people and the willingness to act in opposition to that, as opposed to just like, I don't know, complaining. Like it's
yeah,
easy to bemoan the situation one can be in, but I think that was what was so powerful about the resurgence of Black Lives Matter after George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. Like that would made it so powerful because it's like even particularly because it was happening in a pandemic, the people said no, like we aren't going to take this anymore.
and what was really interesting about that, I was here, I was in DC when like a lot of the protests were happening in front of the White House, which is now Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Mm.
And I went 2 nights back to back. I went once during the day all day, and then I went the next day, but like in the evening into night. And you know, the first day I didn't really know what to expect, and then you know my mom's like, "Don't go, COVID. It's a big crowd situation." And again, I was like, "No, like I gotta be. I have to go. I have to get out there." You know. And what was so beautiful, and literally, I lie to you not, Connor, was all walks of life, every race, male and female gender, and literally no matter who you were, it was all love, it was all unity, and everyone was there for the same purpose.
Mm.
You know, fighting for equal rights and just fighting for, you know, what we're not going to stand for anymore. And I mean, it was really hot, so it was the summertime, so you have people like on the side like giving out waters for free, like small businesses were giving out little like food packages, you know what I mean? Like if some people were there like all day and all night and slept overnight, you know what I mean? So it was like a never ending thing. Like it was around the clock. And then the day before I had went, you know, Trump had his little like publicity stunt to the church across the street, and he released the tear gas, and then people were, you know, giving out goggles and like gloves. So like if that were to happen again, you can throw it back and not burn your hand. Like it was so supportive. Like literally, if anyone was there with a separate agenda that wasn't peaceful, it was immediately stopped. Like by the people, not by like any law enforcement, but by the people. And it was like I felt safe. I felt honored to be there. I took so many pictures and videos, and I was just glad that I was there. And then it was funny because the next night that I went, the tension was a lot thicker, and it was really different. At this point, I think Trump had it sent in the National Guard on the front lines to like divide us all. And it just felt like other people's agendas were just really combative. But I think it was more reactive because of what had just took place with like switching out like the regular police versus like these people with AR rifles, and you know what I mean? Like it was just different, and I didn't like it, but you know I understood it. You know what I mean? It was a lot of pain, there was a lot of resentment, it was just a lot of emotion, and you know I'm glad that I was able to witness that, you know, during such a time like this. I mean, I hope, I mean, it's not something you want to, but you know, it's, you essentially witness history, you know what I mean? And I imagine it was kind of indicative to like, you know, the segregation movement in the 60s, you know, with Martin Luther King. March on Washington, all those different events that took place that helped give us the rights that we have today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a display of the goodness of humanity at a time when a large portion of the the population are doing their best to convince you that people aren't good, and you see that the knee-jerk reaction is actually no, they are, and they will be, no matter what the circumstances are.
It was beautiful.
So again, I imagine that has played like a role in you founding this thing, because again, like another big purpose of your production company is to focus on hiring artists and also just like production assistants and other crew that are people of color and women and other genders that aren't those that regularly are considered for these roles.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a multitude of things. I mean, that being one of them. One of the most recent big catalysts for that. But I would say like the genesis of that idea started because in New York, like after Esper, I was afforded the opportunity to like work on sets throughout the New York City metropolitan area. And I worked on sets of like Mr. Robot, Last OG, Godfather of Harlem, a whole bunch of different stories. Love Life, it's on HBO Max with I forgot her name, but whatever.
Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick. Yes.
Kendrick, if you're watching, we didn't forget you.
Right. Sorry. She would probably like, yo, what the hell, man? So I in working in production, it's not many people of color on set, and if so, it's like very few and far between, and you could probably count on one hand how many you have on set. So and that goes with gender too, like I want to see more women. And I remember like it's funny because all the black shows or black written, black directed shows that I worked on, they made sure that they had like if there was 10 episodes, I think maybe 5 or 6 episodes were directed by women, of any color. So I kind of like saw that and I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like you don't have storytelling. Good storytelling doesn't come out of gender. You know what I mean? It's just your heart, and we all have good hearts. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to find a way to allow myself to work, for myself, and then bring other people on that either I'm a fan of, I love their work, I want to work with them, or I feel like they have something to say, something to tell, you know what I mean? Or they just want to get out there and just do what they love, because a lot of the reason why I started Flatbed when I did, as far as like working at it, to going back to what you were saying earlier, I got tired of not doing what fulfilled me, you know what I mean? And I think you can relate to that, and a lot of many other people too. I got tired of working a job every day to pay bills that come back again, the next month at the same time, and I just felt like I was existing and I wasn't living. You know what I mean? So, and at the time I didn't know how to like reach that point. I identified the problem. I knew what it was. I didn't know how to solve it. And COVID there's some silver linings to COVID, you know what I mean? Like I ended up losing my job at the time to COVID. I was working a corporate job and it kind of put me out of my misery. And that's where I was like, oh, you know what? That's the last job I work. That does not fulfill me, and I'm done. I'm through with it. I don't care what you say. Don't talk to me about it. I'm doing what I want to do. I heard you, but I don't care. You know what I mean? I was just like, it was like tunnel vision, and it was very liberating once I had that thought. And then it was even more freeing when I actually started to do it, and I was like, wow, I'm really doing this. Like, and COVID kind of just exposed that to myself, and I'm sure it exposed a lot of different other things to people as well,
Yeah, I mean, it posed a lot of daunting decisions to people, and I think that is primarily one with the number of people that did lose jobs. It was the idea of like, the key idea is I need to survive, but it also gave people a blank slate to make a decision about what do I actually want to do going forward, because surviving is fine. It is fine, but it's taxing if that's the only thing you're doing, because it does drains you. Like I have no doubt that half the time I feel tired, it's because I'm just like walking around in a zombified state, doing things that don't achieve what I want them to achieve.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Especially when you know what you want to do. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. I think the silver lining has been people have been given the opportunity, whether they've seized it or not, they have been given the opportunity to go, I know what I want and I'm going to go after it. But yes, of course, like that is a very daunting thing to do. Because there's a lot of power in accepting that this what you previously believed to be like a literal fantasy version of yourself,
Right, literally.
can be
Right.
a reality. Like it can be a reality. It doesn't have to be a fantasy. You just have to put in the work to make it a reality.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I was talking about with Sam Hirschman when we did our chat. It's that idea of like people lose sight of, or they don't understand. And I was in this, you know, I had this mindset for a very long period of time. It's like, you know, if I want to be an actor, it's very easy to be like, okay, I've got to do like all the necessary things to be an actor, which is like, I got to audition until I hate doing what I'm doing just so that I can get some recognition, which isn't actually a role. It's just that people know who I am so that I can get an agent and then keep auditioning and then hopefully get a big break. And that exhausts me just like thinking about that.
How much time do we have? Because I want to talk on that too. I want to touch on that as well.
We can go into it, but like, it's one of those things where it's like you don't have to stick to a set structure. You build your own structure because what you want is a unique idea because you haven't existed before. What you want is new because you are new to the world. Like you are your only version.
Right, right. No, I 100% agree. I mean, and you know, in the back of my mind, although like there are a lot of great things that I want Flatbed to provide and bring to the table and do for myself and others, like at the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but you know, I'm an actor first. You know, it's what I want to do. It's the reason why without me wanting to act, there would be no Flatbed. You know what I mean? So, like, there's no one man's path is ever the same, and I feel like, you know, we're gonna go into it, Connor. We're gonna do it.
Hey,
So,
I'm waiting for you to go into it.
I just feel like, you know, the traditional way is obsolete now. You know, like technology is too vast. There's too many platforms. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I champion all of the acting, like quick little couple hour seminars for $80 but like there's no reward in that. Like unless you're going in with an intention, like, okay, I'm going to work with Connor because I know he specializes in this that I don't specialize in, and I want to learn more from him. But when you go in thinking that they're going to get you to the next step, it's not. You know, they got to put food on their table too. And I just felt like, you know, the traditional way just ain't the way no more, you know. And I looking at these guys like Nipsey Hussle, you know, he makes his own music and has his own record label, owns his own masters. Like, yeah, I can write my own stories, act in my own movies, and own my own catalog, you know. Like, so then Netflix comes to me, hey, we want to buy this. Okay, great, I own all the rights. Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like, and not like menacingly, it's just like I just see so many people, so many actors complaining about this doesn't work or how do I do this, but it's just like, dude, you can do so, like, you don't, that's not the only way. It's just not the only way. You know what I mean? And I've always wanted to be someone, because I've been that actor that like sent out by mail mad headshots and resumes, got nothing. I've sent a lot of emails to agents and managers with my headshot and resume, nothing. So I'm like, you know what? What else do I have left to do?
Yeah.
You know? And then when they come start knocking at your door, then that's when the conversation changes. You know what I mean? That's when that's really what you want, you know? Because when you have to beg for an opportunity, are you really wanted?
Yeah.
Like when they come seek you out, they want you.
Yeah.
Like, Connor, I saw you perform at your one-man show. You were amazing. I want you as a client. I'm going to push you. I know, you know what I mean? Like that's like the energy is there. That's, and I've seen that, and it's like, wow, like that's what I want. Like I want someone to truly care about me as much as I care about my career and what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it all starts with self-respect. Like you have to respect you and your work enough to give it the time of day so that that opportunity can actually take place. Because that idea of like begging for someone's attention is spitting in the face of your own work, because you're effectively acting as if it's not worth anything. Like you just want them to like turn around and look at you, and it's like, just do your work. Like it will happen. It's a natural progression of good work. Like good work begets attention in any environment.
It'll find people. It'll find people.
Yeah, and you're right, particularly because of how many platforms exist right now. Like, there's no way that you won't reach people. Like,
Yeah.
you have to. It's a snowball effect. There's just so many ways to reach yourself out into the world, across oceans, that it wouldn't make sense that if you're actually committed to an idea and a project, that it doesn't get any kind of a response.
Yeah, and I just feel like, all the energy, time, and money that we spend into trying to like get other people's attention, we could put that same time and energy and money into us,
Mm.
and it could be the same reward, if not better. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I think the probability is better if we put it into ourselves than, someone can just like, it's like those stories of like you artists are like trying to like get their demos to this big person that like they just shoo it away, or like they get it, they grab it, and then just throw it out the window or trash it. It's like, with all that, you could have just, went to a spot downtown and like performed and gave it your all, and then that one night someone's watching you and they catch you and that's it, you're off. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I was listening to a conversation with an actor yesterday, on Instagram, one of many platforms you can use to, put yourself out there. And, he was saying that, one thing that he wishes conservatories or these acting schools would do, aside from, teaching you the craft of acting, is the business side of things. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be like a class or two of just navigating the industry. Because, we come, like, I don't know about you, but I've realized within the past couple of years, when we were at Esper, I was like, oh my God, art. And like in its purest form, you know what I mean? And then you get out there, it's like, wait a minute. So this is actually really different from what I just experienced there. It's totally different. And it's like really dog eat dog world, and it's cutthroat. And it's like, you gotta just figure out how to navigate it. And there's no textbook, there's no right or wrong way. So you're kind of like just left to fend for yourself. And if you really don't have any connections or just any real knowledge, you're kind of stuck. You know what I mean? And that's another reason why I wanted to start Esper too. You know what I mean? I wanted to start Flatbed as well, to help people like that, pull them up, because I wanted to be pulled up. So
Yeah, and it comes for me. It always comes back to the idea that we got taught, in that luck is where like hard work meets opportunity.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the hard work part is completely within your control. Opportunity isn't always, but I guess like what we've been talking about is giving yourself the opportunity by just giving yourself the permission to do something. And it doesn't necessarily mean, if we want to talk in just like artist terms, it doesn't mean you have to start a production company.
right,
It just means respecting the fact that you have something to offer and finding a place to do it that doesn't require you getting down on your knees and groveling for attention.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, just out of curiosity, I got a question for you. What Since Esper,
Mm-hmm.
or even during Esper, but whatever, we'll start from during to now. What jobs have you had as an actor to try to like make ends meet? You know what I mean? I'm always it's always been like my number one question for any actor that I come up against. It's like, yo, so like, what did you do? Like, how did you do it? How did you support yourself?
So I've had none. I've had no jobs in the arts industry since
No,
we
no, no. I mean, no, 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 no. I mean, like,
just,
what jobs have you worked outside to
oh,
like?
it's all hospitality. It's all hospitality.
Yeah,
I've been working in a fixed location. When we like immediately after we graduated, I was driving all around Melbourne, working different functions and conventions and racing carnivals, doing like catering work.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like none of it's fulfilling. Like not a single element of that is fulfilling, because the whole time, like you're acutely aware of like, this is not where I want to be.
Yeah,
And the scariest moments within it is actually when you see people who were in your position going like, this is not where I wanted to be. And they've been stuck there for so long that they have just accepted, this is where I am and this is where I'm going to be. And that's the saddest part about those jobs.
I feel like you're speaking from the caterer side of things with that. Is that like a
Yeah. The ones,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've had my catering job too, for sure. And you see someone that's a little bit older, and they're like, oh, like they're like mad with the world, like, oh, but I'm here, whatever. Yeah. No, I've had my fair share as well. I mean, we all know about my doorman days. Definitely was a doorman. Actually, the doorman job was the best only because I could rehearse lines in my head at the door.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have to like interact with people at the time. Although I got bored when I wasn't rehearsing or like sitting with like a circumstance to come into class with and like figuring out what it means. But you know, that was cool. You know, PAing. If you're watching this and you're an actor, PAing is great. Just make sure you know when your time is done. Because PAing, if you can get on a real film set, you can really learn a lot about different departments. You know, why they're so intricate and important to a film set, how a set is run. You can see if you're on like a decent or pretty good set, you can see like, you know, whoever the lead is of the show or the movie, like how they carry themselves on set. I mean, like, you know, I remember working with Forrest Whitaker. The way he carried himself on set was like, you would think he was like the newest actor on set trying to impress everyone else. You know what I mean? And he's an Oscar winner. You know, he's Forrest Whitaker. I mean, to see that of his stature and like see how he carries himself, I'm like, that's so inspiring. It's so humbling. You know what I mean? And you know, you just get to learn the backside of things. And you know, I feel like it's just as important as learning in front of the camera. You know, so that would be like advice that I would recommend. And I learned a lot about it. Very valuable lessons learned being on set.
I was going to say, are you someone that like actively makes sure that you learn something from any job you do, or do you just do it unconsciously?
It depends on the job.
Yeah.
It depends. Like for example, like the catering job, I had never waited tables, but I was like, you know what, this is a good opportunity for me to like practice the whole like carrying thing.
Uh-huh.
Or if I had to play like a restaurant, like, you know what I mean, like something like that, like I would take advantage of. Or, you know, I always loved watching and studying people. So like, you know, as we talked about, like there's so many different types of people that are catering at different events. So like I'm talking with people and I'm chatting with them, I'm asking them those questions to see like what kind of person they are. You know, I'm doing the work, letting them happen, and just, you know, like that kind of thing. But in a situation like working on a set, I was actually fortunate to be able to work right next to the actors in the sense of like, as soon as they got on set, or as soon as they landed at set or at base camp, you know, where the trailers are. Hey, good morning, Connor. How are you? You know, do you want your coffee? The regular, yeah. Hey, good morning, whatever. I'm walking them to hair, makeup, wardrobe. I'm basically the conduit between the director and them. So because of that, we got very close because we would work for 3.5 months, 4 months at a time. So, you know, it was kind of like an unconventional masterclass in the sense of like, hey, being pulled into a trailer or a room. Hey, can you run these lines with me? Or having the script for the day and reading and following along, hearing what they're and how they've applied it, like how I would do it, like what my instrument says versus what theirs does, and then asking them a question after cut, or like when we move on to the next scene or the next setup, it's like, hey, so you know that moment that you had, or you know whatever, you know, we're just talking about it, and we kind of speak the same language, so like that was pretty cool. But again, like, it really just depends on the job. I try to make things. After a while, you know, you wallow in negativity because you're upset with whatever job you're working with. It's like, all right, let me try to have a positive Tuesday. Let me just try to apply something and like figure out what I can learn or what good can come out of working this 8-hour shift today. You know what I mean? So I would try to be more intentional. And I think actually it's funny that you asked that, and that's my answer, because 2021, my word right now, my operative word is intention. I want to do more things with more intention and purpose. You know what I mean? I think the most purposeful, intentional thing I've done thus far this whole year is Flatbed. But I just want to carry that over into the next year.
Yeah.
But yes, I am one of those people that try. It's harder. It's easier said than done, but
Yes.
I do try to learn. I do try to learn.
Yeah. And I mean, if we want to just take like one example that's like a great, the net result of you doing that is that you achieved something effectively monumental in what you've built this year just within the company. Even though, yeah, like sure, there's yet to be a project that's solidified out of it, but the groundwork that you've laid is all a net result of you taking those learnings, and in a time when nothing else is going on, you still built it.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea of intention comes from. Strong intention outweighs any kind of context that you exist within. You always have the power to do something. Always. And it comes back to the power of the people out on the streets. In a time when we should have been locked in our homes, the people said, no, we have something to do. And, you know, speaking from a country that's across oceans from where it originated, seeing how it affected other countries just by people recognizing the feelings that they have had, the feelings of unrest and the feelings of being wronged by people in control, and saying, no, like, we don't want to take that either. The effect that strong intention can have on other people is like mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, not even just other people, but yourself. You know, I mean, it all starts with yourself, because if you can't move with intention for yourself, then it's going to be hard to do it for anyone else or other people. You know what I mean? But there's just so much good that, like, it's like a domino effect. Like, once you can do it for yourself, it just spills into other things. You know what I mean? Everything that you do, and what you do ultimately affects people daily. You know, how you drive, you know, whether you throw away your trash in the right spot or not. You know what I mean? Like, these things matter. You know what I mean? And we kind of take them for granted. So intention for me is like a biggie for me. And I want to see how I change as a person, as an artist, as a son, you know, a brother, all that. I think it'll, like I said, it's a domino effect. It'll affect me, hopefully positively, altogether. Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy year, but it's been a good year. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, sorry, I was kind of just reflecting a bit.
That's great, and that's how I feel. I feel like, honestly, I feel like that's a really good note to leave it on, because honestly, I'm excited to see what comes in the next year for you, because again, like everything that we've talked about shows the groundwork that can be laid by one person. Not saying you did it on your own, but it began with your singular intention, you know?
Yeah, I gotta shout out my brother Sam Pemberton. You know, I kind of brought him on board once I had this crazy idea. You know, he also helped me write you know, our first script that we say that's up at bat. It's on deck, at least, because we can't really put it on, you know, the diamond right now. But that'll hopefully we'll find some funding for that next year, 2021. And Kim Suarez, she's kind of like been like a savior in the craziest ways. She's our PR marketing communications head. So she's been bringing a lot to the table that I didn't know I needed to think about. Again, going back to like all these different hats you have to wear.
Yes, yeah.
You got a good background with that stuff. So I'm like, and it's so funny because, like, you know, me and you, like, we just care about the work, and it's like all that extra stuff. It's like, God, we got to do that? All right. So you say, if that's what you say, then cool. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the goal, Connor, is to release a short film every quarter of next year. So hopefully I can uphold that, and I can use this video as, you know, an accountability.
Yeah, you've gone on record saying it now. So if you don't do it, you're in trouble.
It's on record now, and when we release the website, we have like a little like pitch deck, and it's on there too. So we have some promises to fulfill, but we have some stuff brewing that hopefully will be great at the start of the top of the year. So we'll see.
Good. I'm excited for you. I'm proud of you. It's
Thank
very
you.
inspiring.
I'm proud of you too. I'm so glad that you reached out. You know, I'd love to do this again if there's ever like a round 2, or, you know, maybe the conversation can change. I don't know.
We'll come back in a year. If you've done those 4 short films, we'll come back in a year and we'll have a big celebration.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right.
Now
You've gone on record saying that.
I'm on record saying that. Okay.
You know.
Thank you.
And I hope that we get to work together. I will make sure of it now that I can make sure. I can write you in, and you can't deny it.
That's on you.
You just make sure you have everything, all your ducks in a row.
I'll be ready and waiting.
Or, you know, we can come to Australia and shoot some cool stuff if the government lets us back in. But
it'll be a lot cheaper to film here and a lot safer.
I'll take it. Heartbeat. But thank you, Connor, for your platform and what you do and what you're doing. Green Odyssey, I'm tuned in. I'm looking forward to everything and anything that you do. Yeah, I mean, I was tuned in before, and I haven't stopped. So I hope you figure out how to, you know, navigate what you were trying to navigate before. I don't know how to do it, so I'm still hoping that
I'm following your lead. No, don't shatter my hopes like that.
All right, well, look, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. How about that?
Sounds good. Sounds like a deal.